So, handover checklist. So we basically go through all this special requirements, technical exceptions, clarifications. Sometimes that's just in the folder. Now you can talk through that. So all the documentation you guys receive, or they would have received during the project, they would put in the handover too. All the documentation they would have used to kind of build a proposal, specifications, things like that. So because you haven't really digged into all of that, this is going to be a good time, and they'll say, yeah, look at that document that has some special requirements, this, that. Initial risk register, any concept drawings or similar projects we are using as assumption, what quotes they have received already, right? So you don't go and try to reinvent the wheel. You already talked to some vendors. Lessons learned from similar projects or similar customers. Sometimes we will be like, yeah, that customer, he was so much painful. Be careful if you get this guy. I mean, there's things like that which is good to know going into budgets and contingency clarified. So there is contingency. Is that allocated to something, or is it just 5% extra money? It's good to know, because then, hey, we have put contingency, but there's possibility that they might apply LD, and that's why we put contingency. Then I don't want to use it. I want to save it till the very last of the project. So all that stuff can be covered over here. Once you do that, the PM signs it, the sales engineer signs it, so they kind of have an official documentation. You scan it and keep it in the folder. So that's for handover. So talking about Q55. So they have Q55. So Q31 is for projects. Q55 is for inventory and sales. So the way we run projects is different from the way we run inventory and installation support. The reason is there is not much transfer of knowledge, because inventory is a standard as we have it kind of spec. If there is anything special requirements, then usually it comes to project, or we let Ben know that he's inventory, but this has this special requirement. Installation support the same way. So your PO, which came in, would stay in here. They put the PO over here, but then we go and kind of plop in here. Any variation orders you do will also stay in here. We as project managers handle the variation orders. So the first sales come from sales engineers. But then you are so involved in the project that the variation order, you have much more knowledge of what they need and how and all that. So you do the variation order. There's a template for variation order in there, which kind of covers, you're making this change, it's going to change my schedule, it's going to have an impact, or is it $0? And there is so that's the template, right? And you kind of put a summary of who initiated the change, what was the change request. Those are the questions you want to answer. And there's a little cost input sheet where you can build whatever you're selling. Your breakdown structure is there. You can go and input individual cost and quantity, and it'll spit out an executive summary of what those deliverables are and how much JP you want to get on it. You usually try to get more than the project JP. So let's say your project SBID JP was 30%. On a VO, you want to get 40% or something. All VORs come to me for approval. So once you build this VOR, you will click it over the email to me. I have done this, approve, and I'll go and approve it, or I'll ask questions, whatever. But anything under $100,000, I approve. Anything above $100,000, I go to Phil for VOR approval. So you will send it to me, and we both will take it to Phil, but it's general manager's approval. There is no, I can approve up to $500,000, but we have internally made a limit that I will just do it up to $200,000.
So these are more internal variations than customer driven?
Customer. These are variations to customer. So let's say customer asked you.
So you're approving before we ever send it to the client for approval then?
Correct. Internally, we want to make sure that we cover what we need. Sometimes variations, we don't go and put change in delivery, or we don't go and put, hey, you're adding this, but it's also going to,
right,
impact not impact the price, but impact the way your thing performs. So kind of covering those bases is what we try to address most of the times. But other than that, like say this variation order abides by the existing contract. So there is a contract, and behind contract there's an MSA, right? So the MSA, whatever is called out, is applicable to this too. Sometimes we miss it, and they were like, well, you didn't say it on this VO, it's going to be this. But our MSA binds us to that, so we want to tie it all back. Those are the kind of things we
So are we presented copies of MSAs that we have during the handover as well to make sure that we don't get bid on anything?
So these guys do a good sales, does a good job of covering what needs to be on the MSA. We don't get the copy unless asked for it. There are times when we have asked for it, or project is in a situation where we want to go and look at MSA and we say, hey, this guy is asking for our technician or asking for extra engineering work. What's the engineering rate in the MSA? And we'll go and ask for that. So you can ask for it, but unless it's needed, we don't ask. It's extra information to dig into. Anyway, you put your name as approver. Even though we internally use higher-ups for approval, we don't go and say formal approval. Still PM's approval to send it to, but we just want to see it to make sure. So that's VO, right? And all the VOs we make will stay in here, and we just call out the project number dash VOR1, VOR2, VOR3.
Okay.
We can just keep it in this folder. So there's no numbering process. You just call it out VORs. Okay. So between PM and PC, right? So we have two entities within project management. PC is normally work in this folder, project general. PMs work in this folder. So I'll hit the PM first, and I will hit the PC. So PMs usually have a folder called communication. Within communication, they have kickoff meetings, key communication, MOC, project closeout. And I'll tell you each one what it is. So if you go on our framework, the second thing during the proposal initiation phase, the second thing during our proposal initiation phase is kickoff meeting. A kickoff meeting is mainly to get the whole team, everybody else, on board with what this project is. You as a PM sat with sales and understood what the requirements are. Now you're taking that, plus you're learning from the last 5 days of digging into the project, you're sharing with the team of what you think the project is going to be. So we have a template for that. So you kind of run through, all the items in red, you kind of explain to everybody who the customer is, what the delivery times are, standard things, what your project organization is for this project. So you have a PC, PM, PC, PE, quality, and assembly lead. So that's your team. That's what you're going to take and run this project with. Now, of course, there's auxiliary functions over there, shipping and receiving, quality control. You're going to take help from them, but this is the team which is going to give you all the bandwidth you need.
Who defines the team?
So you, PM, and PC, I define them. Like for those two guys, I say this is the PM and this is the PC. Engineering manager, PK, defines who is the engineer on it. Usually we only have one QE, so he by default becomes the quality guy. And everything quality kind of runs in. So if you need data books, you need inspection of parts, you need ITPs, you need source inspection, whatever, you can run through him, right? And then assembly shop, they have different leads. Steve used to assign different leads, but I think that's kind of shifting. So we'll see do that. But Liat is our lead right now. You can put Liat, or you can ask him, hey, who I put in this team, and who assigns him. So that's your team, and that's what you want to pull together for team meetings, your tag ups, whatever you want to do. Because this gives you enough bandwidth to go and run things with other people. You kind of call out your scope. You call out any special things in it. You can put 3D images, drawings if available from lookalike projects. Project engineering, you want to call out the key technical requirements. Engineering deliverables, this has been a big debate lately. What is engineering going to deliver, right? Are they giving general arrangement drawing, general assembly drawing, O&M manuals, storage manuals? Is there a material, is there a FIMICA to be done? Is there an analysis to be done? All those were getting lost. So we're trying to get this better where so this section is still the engineering. So you kind of verify where engineers go and say, here's what I think I'll need to deliver. And there is.
So these are deliverables that will ultimately end up in the client's hand.
Yes, deliverables from engineering to client. You're right. Concept drawings, if there are, similar kind of products and drawings available, they're budgeted hours. This was another one where they blew their budget because they were not keeping track of what their budget was. So making sure that they understand what their budget is. Now, if they cannot make it in that, at least we are aware. It's known to everybody, right? And there's an update coming to this. So there's one more slide we have added for project engineering where they kind of go and list the deliverables and keep it clean.
So your ITPs are not generated by the PM, they're generated by quality department?
Correct. Now, PM plays a major role in it. So once he sees the ITP, there's usually a lot of red lines in it. But the function lies with quality. Now, depending on how good of a quality engineer you have, you will get that good of a product. So there's a senior quality engineer who's going to come over here as rotation and replace the guy we have. And the expectation is he should be able to do a lot more. He has 20 years of experience with oil and gas. The current person we have is kind of fresh. So you have same thing for quality, what are the ITP requirements, key requirements, manufacturing data book, special index, special this. We need to get all the documents reviewed beforehand. So I won't go into details, but all of that is kind of through the years we have learned where the pitfalls are, and we want to make sure it's communicated to everybody. Assembly-wise, any special toolings are required, what spares are required, any test equipment, because we usually don't think about that, and then it comes the end of the project and we're like scrambling for it. So it's a mode of communication to try and be proactive and look for things upfront. So anyway, we kind of talk about the schedule high level here, like here is my foraging, here is my key milestones, and then you have a detailed schedule over here, link to that, so if you want to go to detailed schedule. Some of the pacing items, you want to talk about the risk and lessons learned, what risk you see in this project, either came from bids or they came from past experience. We kind of go and talk about that, and any lessons learned from previous projects. So we have a lessons learned register where we put lessons learned after every project, and based on similar project, we'll go and review those lessons learned before the kickoff meeting to make sure that we capture any gaps we saw at that time, making sure they're not still there. And communications. This is telling the team how frequently we'll meet and where the action item list will be kept. And so we have a group, ECRS KOM. This group has all the auxiliary functions in it and their managers. So when you set up a kickoff meeting, which Tabitha does, she would keep the PM, PE, and she'll copy this group. So this group has all the right people who needs to know there's a new project starting, and this has all the requirements for this new project. So after this presentation is done, you also want to email the presentation to this group. That way they have a copy for future. So enough about kickoff. That's one of our communications, right? So that's out of our communication folder. Kickoff is one. Any key client communication, which you think there's enough substance in it that I want to keep a copy separate, you can print PDF and put it in here. So that's a folder for that. MOC. So we are big in management of change, and anytime, I'll show you the triggers. So we have a set MOC process, and anytime, let's say we are forecasting, the MOC goes through operational changes and financial changes, but whenever there is a key personal change or financial change, we want to send an MOC alert, which we basically say project number, whatever, what was the amount, it was a JP drop, all of a sudden your project is going well and you see potential for drop, you will say, hey, this happened, has failed, my planned JP was going to drop from 30% to 26% now because we had to spend so much money. Those kind of upfront communication is promoted through MOC. So if you had a forecast and you're not going to be able to make forecast with a variance of like 10% or so, then you want to send an MOC. So there's a threshold we use to send MOC, and if you pass the threshold, then you want to kind of communicate. I'll show you some examples. So like I mentioned, the groups, right? We have a group for MOC also, email group. So anytime anybody has an issue or change of management of change, you see all this are MOC alerts through the year. So different people have sent different MOCs. So this guy sent, revenue shortfall by 80K. He was expecting something to happen. It's not going to happen. Here's the reason why, and here are the actions he's taking. Just a quick blurb to that MOC group, which goes to all managers over here, so we know that if somebody can do something about it, let's do something about it. That's kind of a pre-communication that I have this issue, and everybody's aware. And if nothing, at least they're aware. But if they can help, they come and help.
And that is followed up with a formal MOC document, or is it always that informal?
This email?
Yeah, I mean, is it followed up with a formal?
No, this is it. That's the part of our process. So we have a documented MOC process, which gives you a format of what you need to do, and then when you will trigger that. So these are tables of, when you're buying stuff which is out of project, which is more than 5K. So not part of your project budget. You want to go and buy a special tool, which is not part of the project budget, but it's going to help the shop. And you want to send an MOC saying, I'm buying something out of project, it's going to affect my JP, but it's for this reason, right? Or we are scrapping a hardware which is more than 5K, or there is a deviation request. I want to open a project, but I don't have a PO, or I don't have the VO approved, but I want to go and start this because I don't have enough time to wait for the approval. And you want to send that through a MOC and get a deviation request. We also do project closeouts, and project closeouts are also considered MOC. So you will see completion closeout statement. So let's say this project got completed, you'll send an MOC out saying this project, this were the lessons learned, this were NCs, this was the cost of poor quality, that was the as-built, that's the current JP. So that everybody knows project got done, here are our lessons learned, here are the things which happened, here is how we ended the project. And this goes into a repository for lessons learned. So MOC is a catch-all for us, where things which are not part of the normal scope, we want to capture that by MOC. Things we are going to miss on. So, and our MOC, look through this documentation, you'll see that number in here. But it can be too much to grasp at the first phase, but it's not that.
So is there no formal MOC for true project changes that need to be documented and stay with the project documentation?
You mean like baseline changes?
Yeah.
No. So baseline changes can only happen, or should only happen when requested by customer.
Then it becomes a variance.
Yeah. Then it becomes a variance and you do a new baseline. But if it's internal where we miss something, we are not rebaseline. Our baseline stays the same. We just missed it. And we continue. So I think I know what you're asking, but we don't go and rebaseline it just because internally we were deficient.
And I'm not even talking about like rebaseline, but say you have something in the specification calling it a certain material, and you can't get the material, but you can suggest an alternative that
So
the client will accept, but you got to have some way to document that.
So that's a deviation request.
Okay.
So those kind of things, we, like if it's a client approval, we'll send a deviation request to client. And there's a formal number. So this sheet has all the document numbers in it. And when you go to the project folder, all the projects, there's a folder called standard forms and templates. All our standard forms and templates with the document number reside in here, right? So the deviation form, like you mentioned, is here. That's our deviation form. And if we want to like take exception from customer or things like that, then we'll send this to customer.
Okay.
You fill this up, send it to customer for approval. So there might be things we might not touch, but if you have interest in looking at the document numbers all reside on here. This is a informal repository. The formal repository for everything is PLN. You go and punch that number in PLN, it will show you the actual latest revision. So when you get audited or quality comes to you, your formal place to go is that. This is just an informal dumping place for us.
Who's uploading the revisions in the folder?
I do.
Oh,
I keep everything in this folder. As I do.
person, project?
No, this is
Those are the templates.
these are templates, right?
Okay.
So I manage this. For projects, each projects, PM, PE, who starts working on it, because this is a working folder. So this guy, for example, project management usually work in this folder. So they'll put all that stuff in here. Engineer will be putting all that stuff in here. Content, yeah. So
So does this data end up eventually in PLM, or is it always stays here?
always stays here, yeah. It's backed up, but it always stays here. There have been times when people would like, oh, my folder disappeared. Not with, not money, but in backup. So in those times, you'll have to go to the backup to move it to. So back to the project management, communication. So we talked about MOC, management of change procedure is there. There is also project closeout. When project closeout, depending on the type of project, if it's a small project where not a lot of things happen, then you want to do a project closeout email, which I showed you, which goes out as MOC. And if it's a big project, there's a lot of learning, a lot of things which happen, quite a few things to discuss, then you do, so this is your template for closeout. Project name, any accolades, major lessons done, we saw that. And if it's big project, then you have a closeout meeting template where you actually pull your team together and go through a closeout. Because there's a lot of things we want to wrap up in there. I won't go through the details, but you get the gist. And there is attendance template, so if you have meetings and stuff you want to use an attendance template, you can use this. We also use a lot of this where our Google meetings, you can go and print this, and it will come with an attendance sheet. So we'll just usually go and print our meeting invite, and it has all the people on it, it calls what it is, and you can put some notes on here if you want. But it's just quick and easy tool, that way you don't have to go and type all that stuff. So we just use that, and people just sign off over here on the side. All right, so back to this. So that's one folder, financials. We are very heavy in making sure the financials are right, and we track it and all that. So I'm going to keep a focused separate session on financials. I'll give you a quick overview of what it is. So in our financials, we have month-end financials. So every month we go and do a month-end financial. We'll close the month, we'll get all the costs on the project, times charged, POs received, and all that, and they will create an end of the month file. There's two files in here. One is the project details and project end of the month. Project detail is an automatic system generated file which goes into PeopleSoft and gets all the, for your task 208, you had this and this POs on it, and that was the cost. Okay. So it's a detailed report. So what it does, it's a, for your forging, you had all these POs, and those POs are those total costs, and that bucket should see a cost of $23,000 on it. And you can go by month and see month by month what cost added, right? If you want to go into that. But it gives you all the PO numbers and all the details of what you bought, and you can figure out what's left and all that. Because as PM, you want to understand what I'm done with, what more I need, so that you can know the budget versus what's actual versus what's pending. This file is summarized. Information of that file is summarized in here, where that $23,000 or whatever you're seeing before is put as a summary over here. So that was your budget, and that's what you spend, $23,855 for that forging plan item. So you don't, as PM, you don't want to go into details every time, but you want to see overall between those buckets, my WBS, I had so much budget, where am I, and how much more I'm going to need. You can play with it. And there's a lot more things which happen in here, so we'll do that on a separate session. And then you also do forecasting over here as far as whatever money is left when you're going to start recognizing revenue. So while we are on here, for the month-end financial part. We also have forecast files, or portfolio files we call it, where we keep track of all our projects, right? So as a project manager, you look at your month-end financials and you have the summarized result. We want all those results for each project as summarized in a file too. So that becomes our forecast file. So let me make sure this file is also shared with you guys. So PCRS project financials. So each PM, what projects they have, and what's the details, and how they're going to gain the revenue on it, all comes over here. So through the year, January, February, March, how they're going to gain the revenue on it, what the projects are. As soon as the project gets started, you put it on, and then you take the total revenue of the project and separate it in your best possible manner. Right? Sometimes you might not know when it's going, but based on your baseline schedule, I think the forgings are going to be coming here. You kind of spread it out so you know when things are happening. We also put remarks over here if there's anything going on with the projects or risk or opportunities. Sometimes we'll say there's an opportunity, there's contingency over here, we don't think we'll need it. When we pass this stage, we'll release it. So people above us know that yes, he's calling out this much JP, but there is potential he will even go higher or lower, whatever's going. The same sheet is kind of put in a second tab where we also manage look at the project milestones, how much payment we were supposed to be done. As and when it gets done, we kind of take it off from here. Those are the milestones of what project payments are supposed to have. Any cost of poor quality happen in the project through that month. Right. So, oh yeah, we got this part machine, but then we had to send it back because we forgot a feature, and that's cost of poor quality for us because any cost which would not have been required in ideal circumstances or not in normal circumstances will become cost of poor quality. And so we put the date and we mark it saying this is what happened and that's the cost of poor quality. Lessons learned. As in when we go every month, we talk about the project, we'll put major lessons learned in here. So we kind of have an overview of the major things which I want to do something about overall because it's probably affecting. It might affect another project. Then we also put any risk. Now this is new to us. We used to have risk and lesson learned in a separate file. Okay. So from this January we have changed. We're bringing those items over here for monthly discussion. And then any other remarks we want to put. All the VORs we talked about. If you have a VOR, it goes over here. So we'll put here. We'll get your name. Any VOR you have on your project, which you send to customer, even it's pending, we'll log it over here so we keep track of what potential, like the sales forecast. This is forecast of the VO. And as and when they get done, the VOs get added to the actual project. So the budget is added and time changes, whatever is added to it.
So these would all be pending VORs.
This will be all pending here. Once it happens, we zero it out and we grade out like a project would happen. All right. So that's the forecast part of it. So same like we do doing forecast here, we also do forecast for inventory. We also do forecast for installation support. So let me see. So we have a website. I'll share this website with you guys. So not website, but it's a page. Where we put all the forecasts together. So here's the forecast summary file. It automatically pulls the forecast from projects, whatever the total forecast is. It pulls the project from forecast from inventory, each individual inventory items, each individual project. This is the total. So same format we were following. We'll follow that, but for overall. So if you want to look at the whole business as total, for this month, business was saying I'm going to make this much money, and we are planning this much money. Right? So you can see month to month what the business is thinking they'll make, or plan and forecast. because plan is plan and will stay constant through the year. Once we see year picking up or low, we'll adjust the forecast. So you see what business is thinking, and then here's what each individual discipline plus sales is bringing to the table for that. So the website will look like this. So you have the overall forecast, and then you can go to the project forecast. The one we saw. These are embedded files, so you can just open it and open it separately. You can see the inventory forecast in here. This is your inventory forecast and your sales forecast. And installation support is in there too. You can see summary of forecast for other years like 2018, 2017. So we can go back and see how we did on each segment each month. So I will share this site with you guys. So bookmark it. So if you want to look at financial information in future, you can look at it. Have you started using this messenger thing?
Yes, I have. Yes, I have.
So where were we? So that's our financial stuff, right? So I gave a very high level view of financial. There's a lot more detail in there.
So with that first spreadsheet and financials, is that automatically generated for us by counting every month, or do we have to go pull it?
This, they're automatically generated.
Okay.
So they will be generated and kept in the folder, and accounting will also go and do this end of the month file, and you'll get an email that, hey, the files are done. You know, so then you can start. So it's a very tight schedule early in the week for us. So once the close happens, there is a day for accounting to pull the information together. There is a day for project management to kind of go and do their stuff. There is a day or 2 days for project management to go and review their stuff, and one day where we sit one-on-one and go through the forecast, the financial sheets, and the other things. So the invite you got yesterday, month end, that's 1 3-hour slot. But I'll go 1 p.m. to 1 p.m. So one of the PM will come in the office, we'll go through all their files. The second one will come in at the... All right, so project management, financials, register is register. You have actions, there's action list in here. So we have a Google format of action list and Excel. You can use whatever if you prefer Google Docs, because everybody can edit it at the same time and all that. It has a lot of other features. You can put auto reminders in here. So if you have a date, before the date comes, you want to remind this person, you can have that person automatically work on. So we use this as our minutes of meeting. We don't go and create separate minutes of meeting. With customers or with internal, we just use this as a minutes of meeting. So if you have an action, if you have a comment or discussion, or if you have a decision, whatever you want to have over here, you put that and you notate it. And if it's to be done by somebody, then you put it, or if it's just a decision or something you just want to log it, you log it. That way we keep track of all of this in one action register. Right? And
it's just one document for the life of the project, or
one document for the life of the project. If you have internal and external, we sometimes create 2 different ones with customer. But even for customer, we just do a tab. If you're not supposed to send them, we just create a tab. If you're supposed to send them every time, then we'll create separate file. That way they don't see our internal laundry. So anyway, you status it. This is if nothing as a PM. This is one tool we'll have to rely on, because our schedule is only level 3. I'll talk about the schedule. We don't want to go too detailed in our schedule. So everything from that point onwards is managed through here. You can also put special topics. So other than actions, there are certain things you want to kind of discuss and bring up to the table. And we also have a risk and lesson learned. From week to week, you can put your stuff in here. We'll gather the major ones and we'll talk about that in our month ends, any major ones, and we'll, oh yeah, this happened. Like we'll log that in the forecast file. That's kind of our portfolio file, so it's not just forecast. Also, whenever your project starts and ends, we want to use this risk and lessons learned memory jogger. What it does, it has all the steps we kind of go through and the common pitfalls where either risk happens or lessons happen. Rather than just, hey, do you have any risk or do you have any risk, we kind of run through this to figure out, oh yeah, that might be an issue here because we are supposed to ship with open containers. We haven't done it before. That's it. So that helps us kind of bring some risk and lessons learned. You want to do that for sure early on in the project while you're doing the kickoff and stuff. And at the end, so if you have missed something, you will. And that's registers. And then anything quality, your ITP, your NCR, and I don't know why, sorry, the quality's up. And then, so that's your register. Any reports you do, so there might be weekly reports or monthly reports you want to do. We have formats for both. Weekly, if you're doing, so when project comes in a thick of it, sometimes you can start doing weekly reports, which is kind of a one-pager. Here is where key things are happening, achievements, any issue status. It's just a quick summary, so you can send it out to the management to say, here's my status. We don't use this often. And then if you have a client who wants monthly or weekly report, you can even use this template. We have templates set up for them for monthly reports. Again, this is on as need basis. You don't need to do it for every time. Many of the clients will ask for it. Probably will ask. Now we have dashboards. So not all of our projects go to a dashboard, but there are certain high value, high risk projects which senior management, which is VP and above, will want to see a dashboard. So especially the projects who have multiple groups involved, a lot of risk involved, or high, there's basically a lot of stake for the company in it, they will go to a dashboard. So let's say Genesis, right? If the Genesis happened, $7 million project, that will probably need a dashboard. So you have all this information, you compile, fill up every month. Once you do it, it's easy to keep updated. But you would give a quick snapshot of where you are, how your budgets are looking, how much you spend, any recordables stuff, any major risk and contingency in the project. What's your customer pulse? How much you have delivered? Where do you stand against your delivery? How much documents you have sent, received? All that stuff in one page. It's a quick snapshot for management to see the health of the project. All right. That's it. That's project management. And general is where PCs work. The function of PC over here is very cross-pollinated. They do supply chain, they do planning, portion of planning, and then do coordination. Right, so everything they do is kept in here. Right, so if they have vendors quotes, they'll populate all that in here. So they will go out and get the quotes. So once the bombs are released, you'll basically say, hey, go and buy the parts. And they'll go and figure out, they'll get a couple of quotes and then they'll say, okay, I got this is the best one, I think, or whatever. And then they will send a requisition to you with those quotes attached saying, Mr. PM, I want to cut a PO to this part. And you will approve it. Once you approve, they become PO, POs kind of stay in here. POs are also in PeopleSoft. So everything after engineering stays in PeopleSoft. So all these POs can stay in PeopleSoft.
On the PCs, do they have to provide minimum of 2 quotes to PM? Or?
So we try for 3. We cannot achieve it all the time. So 3 is what we want. 2 is where they usually end up because there's no third person can do this, or we just know that it's not their wheelhouse, even though they will say yes they can do it. Either their lead times are higher or their costs are higher, so you might not even spend time. I want to change that, but we normally end up with 2 rather than 3.
Okay.
We also have purchase price variance in our PeopleSoft. So if you have bought that part before and they try to order it, it will show them the purchase price variance. And you bought this before for $40, you're paying $43. It's kind of an indication for them to say, I'm overpaying for this part.
Right.
We don't use that feature efficiently, but that's what the PO will be. It will have the rec number, the PC's name, and what parts were there. Also, PO becomes the catch-all for us. So things which are not captured on the drawing or things which are special, because we sometimes will existing drawings, we'll take it and then we want to put NDE on it, and it becomes part of the PO. So as a PM, it's important that we review the requisition because requisition has all those details.
Mm-hmm.
They automatically just are pasted on the PO. Right? So when you approve a PO, you're basically saying that it's on there. I'm agreeing to. Another thing we work with is the quality inspection requirement for the parts are also called out on the PO. So we have a document which covers all of our inspection requirements. But if there's any special requirements, then we go and call out separately. So let me see where that is. Yeah, I'll see it on here. So the quality requirements. So this part needs to come with MTR, dimensional report, and certificate of conformance. Right. So those come with the part, but if you want to change it, then PCs can go and change and add stuff to it. So we want ND reports too, or we want this. So those are the ones you want to make sure that you kind of verify what you're getting. Another thing you want to verify is like charging it to the right job and task, right? And the cost and stuff is right. The reason you want to make sure it's right job and task because if it goes to the wrong task, your budgets are going to start skewing up, and you won't have. If you let it go too much, you won't be able to figure out what happened here and why I'm all the way out. I cannot justify. Right? So it's very important that you kind of keep that clean for your sanity later on. So that's project general. And then you have warehouse control form, shipping EMOs. So the major function PCs do here is they'll buy the parts. They'll take out the vendors, they'll buy the parts. That's their major work. They would also manage a CRR, which is each PC will maintain their own CRR. I'll show you what it is. So they have a component requirement report, or whenever there is a BOM generated, they'll copy that BOM over, and they'll say, these are all the parts I need to buy, and how many quantities, and then what POs they're buying or they're getting from inventory. So they can keep a track of when they're going to have all the parts to build. Right? So for each project, they'll go and build one, and they'll track who's building it, what PO line items, when they're coming, and all that. This list also becomes part of our Q38, which is our shop router, saying go and pull all these parts to build that item, because they bought all this on those POs and all that. Right? So it's a dual purpose. They manage it through the life cycle, and once it's done, they print it and attach it to the Q38 form, which is our shop router, to say go and use all these parts to build this.
So is there a column for actual delivery date?
Yes. PO due date is what they track it to, and then date receipt is what the actual one is.
They don't do any kind of formula comparison there so that you can grade vendors?
So that
Probably just everyone, right? And, I mean, well, I don't know if you want to.
no, so it does happen in the system. So I'll show you. So Duke Snyder, he's our supply chain guy. So twice a week he sends a report of what open POs are, which POs are late, and so they have a full snapshot not just by project. So let me see.
So the PC is the one that, inputs all the information in
That sheet.
that sheet. How are they notified when a material arrives in the warehouse?
So they get an email.
Do you know?
The snapshot.
From like.
Shipping and receiving, yeah.
Shipping and
So
receiving.
this part is received. They also can see it over here. So this is the email which comes out from you, right? Open PO's report, and it basically shows all our POs, the ones which are late or getting to be late, kind of highlighted,
Mhm.
and then who ordered it, and all that. So this report is where what you're saying, rating the supplier and all that happens. So there is a system in the background where this report is used to figure out which vendors were late and on time, and they go from there. So, but Duke handles all that. So these guys are very tactical. They are focused on their project. Duke sees the overall, how all suppliers are doing. All that. So we talked about this. So their function mainly, buying parts, making sure that tracking sheet is up to date. So you as a PM know, when can you build it? What's the cost done on the project so far? Like all these parts are ordered. It's costing me $3,000. I have $55,000 worth of parts still left. Right? So open POs is what you want to look at. So when you do your financials, that sheet becomes helpful to you. Then they send NOIs and make sure the coordination of that items are done when the test is happening and all that. They also chase documentation and stuff like that when the parts come in, and if there are documents issues and things like that. And they also do EMOs. Right? So their basic functions are those. Then they do whatever PM and PC kind of decide to work on. So basic function is shipping EMOs, POs, codes, and NOIs.
They have broken down by phase, the items that need to be ordered. So for example, to start the production of an item, I'm assuming there's a certain.
Leaking again? 14 and a half on the actuators? Yeah. Leaking again. Shannon and I already went out there, I'll send you a message.
But while you're with him, can you ask him about the 1.1 deal I was sending
I
you
will.
over?
I made eye contact with BK right after lunch about what we would do, and he was like, why wouldn't we just keep it under pressure? It was like we were reading each other's minds.
If that's the case,
Yeah.
then you might want to get Alex in the loop, and you might want to give customer a notification, hey, we might call you on short notice.
If we can get it passed.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, thanks, man.
I know.
So they use this. Your question.
So my question is, so does the PC tab, by phase, which items need to be ordered? Some items have a longer lead time to be delivered, so I would assume those would be some of the first items that need to be ordered.
So we go by, let's get whatever we can ordered.
Okay.
But we also know which are long lead. So PM would work that in the schedule, and he'll say,
Okay.
these are the items, even in kickoff there's a section for long lead. These are the items I'll need you guys to focus. So they focus on that, get that out first. Then the rest of the items, there's going to be time triggers when, it's going to be due.
Right.
But there are things like elastomers and bolts and nuts.
Mm-hmm.
If they're released, they'll go and buy it. We'll keep it on the shelf, even though we don't need it.
Right.
It's better to have it than
Then
need it
wait
and not
for
have
it.
it. I think you said that a few days ago, right?
Yeah, I
like
think
that
it is.
statement. So I think there's a little bit of a battle between the way we do things and our general manager. His background is supply chain. We're like, why don't we just order it like you're asking when we need it? But what if it doesn't show up when we need it? Then everything is stopped.
No, I just think I think it's important to have even some smaller things that look within a week you can have them in the warehouse. But I mean, I know there's certain items that always have to be ordered.
So forgings are our
Like
longest.
right away, as soon as the
So
project.
as soon as the project hits, the first thing we decide, and that's one of the things at kickoff is, when are you going to be able to release the forging? Forging are our longest lead, because that usually takes the 10 weeks or so,
Right.
or 10 to 12 weeks. While we get the forgings, all the rest can be dealt with. So
Right. Okay.
our focus is usually forging. Now, when you're dealing with connector and other things like OCS parts, there are things where it might not be the forging, it might be the Greylock. Greylock takes a long time for us to get anything. So Greylock becomes a long way, and we focus on that. So whatever is normally is kind of dissected out and talked about upfront, dates are put to it, and then we track to those. Once those are done, then everything else falls into as and when you get released, we'll work through that.
With regards to inventory versus project, if you've got a project that's got a lot of items on it, say 10% of them are items that you keep in inventory, do you use those, or do you?
Good question. So we tend not to use inventory items. Everything is bought to the project if it's for a project, right? So let's say there are studs sitting in inventory. Do we want to go and use those studs, or we want to buy it to the, we want to buy it to the project? However, there are times when we'll take it from inventory and replenish it. Lately we have been lacking on that, so I think we need to tighten that up. But we just want to buy it to the project if there is a use for inventory item. Unless Ben says, I don't know when I'll be able to use it, then let's consume it, so we don't have stuff just sitting around out. So there is some of that give and take in there. So let's see. So we talked about all these folders up to here. Then there is a quality folder. Quality is where all the data book stuff will be kept. There's a lady by name Dina Hammond. She sits in the high bay, but she does all our data books. So data books is like shipping and receiving, quality. Data book is also shared function. So they all just sit together and they just do our work sitting remotely. What they do is they take this Q38 form I was talking about. PCs also do Q38 form by the way. So we take this Q38 form. Q38 has the steps on it on what assembly. Use this procedure, use this FAT, do the steps, use all these parts. That information, once it's done, assembly is done, all the sign-offs are done, goes to them, and they can pull all the data to build the data book. So that's why that form is kind of important. It pulls the information through. So that Q38 form stays here. So quality owns Q38. Even the PCs do it, quality owns it. So all the Q38 is done for this. Sorry, that's the drawing. I'll give you a flavor of what a Q38 is. It's a simple form, just tells you the serial number, what that part is, they'll sign, people will sign off, then what are the activities? So PC, these are PC's activity. Make sure to attach the BOM, drawing, FAT procedure, whatever you're calling out, they attach all that. So they go and put the correct numbers and they attach the correct revisions. That way it's not for anybody else to decide. They tell what it is. Make sure that while you're building it, you also send a request to Databook that you need to start Databook. So Databook starts pulling information while you start building it. That way, when it ends, you usually can finish the Databook in a couple of days. What used to happen, we'll ship something, and 2 months later we'll keep the Databooks, and things have transpired by then. So this helps us to kind of get them kick-started while we're finishing stuff. Is the TPI required or not? So they fill these 3 items, and then QE will fill these items, and then text will fill these items, right? It just goes on and on. So whatever steps are, they'll go through it and they'll sign off. And then they'll attach that CRR I was talking about to that, so they know what components to pick. So this all becomes our record of manufacturing. So you have quality, Q38, any NCRs or corrective actions are kept in here, ITP is kept in here, QE does the ITP, PM has the ultimate accountability to ITP. So if things are incorrect on ITP, you have to check or you want to make sure things are correct. Because still owned by quality, if something is wrong on it, it will affect the overall project. There are times when you want to send the ITP to vendors, there are times when you want to send the ITP to customers, there's times when you want to send the ITP to our QE guys, and when you receive the parts, inspect according to this. So there's no set system on who gets the ITP when. EM decides that I think this vendor needs to see the ITP because the requirements apply to it. Document register. This is maintained by quality. If there is documents we want to transmit, Dina, the data book lady I was talking about, does the document transfer too. So you just click the document to her, and during the kickoff, you have talked already on what the document transfer requirements are. So if she has to send to a specific email, specific group, format it certain way, all that is discussed already. She keeps it, and then you just click the document to her with the project number. She'll plop it in the incoming document, add it to the register, and manage it from there. When the new document comes, she'll put in the outgoing or incoming document. Go from there. So all that is kept over here, and then of course data. So that's the overall folder structure, and everything we do in the project you'll kind of find. I think I've covered most of it, but let me open my presentation, because I took you guys a different route. I usually would do this on a presentation. I kind of want, it was 2 people, so we just did it on one-on-one. So let's look at the presentation. Talked about the overall framework. Within the framework, we hit most of the points. There are things over here, technical query, TQ form, deviation form. Those are the kind of forms you're talking about if you have to ask customer or take deviation. Then there's an engineering section, how engineering does their thing, right? So functional design spec, MDL, XForms, long lead. Your XForms and long lead covers what you're talking about. So we tell them what long leads are need to be, and they'll focus on that on the XForms.
Oh, okay.
And then the rest of the stuff, mainly execution part of it. And then we come to manufacturing. We do pre-production meetings sometimes if it's a special one or we haven't done it before. There's safety risks, stuff like that. So we have a template for pre-production meeting if you want to get the, if you have a third party who's going to be running through the process, and you do a pre-production where you go through the ITP, then you go through the procedure, and you go through any special safety requirements and stuff like that.
It generates the test procedures. Do PMs do that? Or
Engineers do that. So everything technical lies with engineering. PMs can influence it, but we are not the final say. So we talked about this handover checklist. We talked about the project kickoff. We talked about the sign-up sheet. We talked about the meeting. We haven't touched schedule. Let's touch schedule. So project management also keeps schedules. I don't know how we missed it, but schedule over here, right?
Mm-hmm.
So your project schedule resides over here. We use Microsoft Project for our scheduling purpose. So you can it's a one deliverable, so you can make level 3 quick and easy. We have templates set up for our schedules. So if you go over here, I'll show you a WBS first. So this is our level 3 WBS for scheduling, right? So if you have a Beacon or a SF or Smart Clamp, you have your contractor board, your project management, your system engineering, and then you have this level in it to make sure that you cover the steps you want to cover. So this is a pictorial format of the WBS. But here is the template. So you can take this and kind of change the names, but make sure you call this out and put the dates, and things are linked already.
right.
And you can just use that for it. So if you have a Beacon, you call Beacon or just collapse it and kill it. If you have multiple of it, you can copy it and just use it. Or you can go to a project which has similar product, take the schedule and modify it. It's all up to you. So we tend to not go too detailed on schedule, but at the same time give enough detail that we can figure out things start sliding. So level 3 is what I hope you relate to what I mean. Yeah, level 3. So that's for schedule. We talked about month-end financials, that we'll go in detail later on. Talked about risk lessons learned, we talked about the weekly report stuff, we talked about management of change alert, talked about VORs, document transmittal, we talked about there's a process for, but you just send it to Dina, she takes care of it, basically how it ends up. XBOM we talked about for nomenclature of XBOM and how they use it for long lead. The part status sheet we talked about, pre-production meeting, that's kind of an agenda for pre-production meeting if you have to do one. So before you go into production, you kind of want to touch on some of these items. Project closeout we talked about, and the folder structure. That's our folder structure. That's it. That's basically the project management flow for when we get the project, to how we execute it and how we close it out. As far as the product flows through the system, I know you brought this.
Right.
This is a slightly older version, but more related to PCMS. So what happened through last year? So through last year, what happened was we all merged quality-wise. Right? So quality became a shared service. Last 3 years have been slightly different for Oceaneering because we went into a shared service mode. Before, each group would have their own individual people. So our finance, our quality, our shipping, receiving, SCM, all those functions became shared. So we don't have our own people anymore. So when that happened, they decided that we're going to merge the quality too. When they did that, they took our roadmap and made it into a Houston roadmap. So there's things in there which we don't kind of follow, things we follow. So they took ours and actually made theirs. So let me show you where you go for it. So if you get audited ever, make sure you bookmark OceanNet, because everything you want to go for comes through OceanNet. OceanNet, you go to portal and quality management system. That's right. Portals. Subsea manufacturing products.
Manufactured products.
Manufacturing products. Okay. So manufacturing products and then PCRS, right? So if you want to go anything quality, if you get audited, everything we need for quality goes to Subsea manufacturing products, PCRS. That's our site. So product realization map is that. Right, so this is the map for product realization. So if anybody asks you, or you want to go over what happens then from the start to the end, how product gets out of the door, that's what it will go through it. But anything else you need for quality, quality objectives, quality manual, SOPs, our standard operating procedures are all in here. So project management framework you're looking at, change management procedures, contract review, control of documents, change of key personnel, all that is driven through here. Again, these are kind of dry. These are done for ISO purposes. They're not for like, okay, somebody can read this and train. Work instructions are there for doing stuff. So peruse through it. I won't say don't peruse through it. So all these documents lie in here. Any forms you need. The design file for PCRS Q31, Q38, all those forms are in here. Okay, so let's go through product realization map.
What is that? Sounds like we're brewing coffee.
So I have an 11-year-old computer, and was one of the best computers when I got it. It had
Uh-huh.
8 GB graphics card and, at 11 years ago. This is now probably the oldest computer in the company. I haven't taken time.
Talks to you all day.
I know. I haven't taken time to change it, so.
Okay, so it's actually, okay.
So my computer keeps me entertained through the day. I'm pretty sure I'll have to change it with the Windows 10 coming.
Oh, yeah.
If that happens, I haven't bothered to go and get a laptop or anything like that.
Amazing.
All right, process flow. Customer requirements come in to the business unit, and does it needs to go through proposal support, or it can be handed over, right? So let's say it goes through proposal support, and the set of the project is an ITP required, and is a design required. Again, this is kind of merged up. So if you look at this is clean PCRS stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
This has influence of other groups, so it won't
Okay.
exactly fit ours only. So here, similar to this, customer requirements comes in, it comes to the bid. We set up an entry. Is it an inventory product? Yes, then we just
Straight
ship
out,
it.
okay.
Right? Because it's on the racks, we ship it. If no, is a new design required? Yes. Then it goes to engineering. If it's not required, then we have an existing design, Mr. PM, just take it and run. Right? So, do we need to do some procurement? Yes, we need to do some procurement. Or no, we don't need to do procurement. It's just engineering, design, feed phase, whatever. Then just go to engineering. So if procurement is required, you go and purchase parts. You receive parts. Is QC required? Not all of our parts will need QC. Sometimes we say docs only. Sometimes we say no inspection. If it's a test pipe or stuff like that, then it goes no inspection. If it's QC required, then it goes to incoming QC. If it's NCR, it goes here back to the purchasing. If it's no NC, then it comes to manufacturing, which hits the shop. Shop, is the assembly required, or can you just ship the part as it is? Most of the time, the assembly is not required. You take this part and stage it to the PM racks. When the thing is ready, Q30 is supplied, you start assembling it. You want to test it, yeah, test is required, 90% of the time test is required. Then you test it, there's NC or stuff, no. If not, then you move on. One typical thing over here, which is not for any other group, once we test it, we disassemble the parts, coating. We don't coat the parts and then test it. We actually disassemble. So disassembly and coating happens. You get the coated, things coated. If it all goes through, then you go reassemble it, and then project is closed out, and so on. So in summary, that's what you saw, kind of the flow of it. When you go over here, there's a lot more stuff to it. There's welding and inventory and all that, which we don't have to go through. So there's a little more noise. But they try to combine it all and just make one, so we can get one IS audit and one certification for everybody. So there's the same thing, but it's a little more noise. There's NDE and welding and storage and stuff like that.
So all of, within PCRS, all the welding and NDE, that's all third-party stuff?
Welding is all third-party stuff. NDE is mostly third-party. We have our group, internal group, which also does welding and NDE. So sometimes we'll send it to GMS, who does welding, our global machine shop. And there's a QC group who has NDE capabilities, so we'll do NDE. Most of the time we deal with third-party because our internal group is slim, and they're like, I got an issue, jump on it, fix it. That's the kind of stuff they do. And the PCs are well versed into who do they go to in what situation and to what. So meetings and how we plan things and stuff. So we have every Monday 9 a.m. every Monday 10 a.m. we have a production meeting. So in production meeting we go through the production schedule. Yeah. Come on in.
Question about Rex.
Uh-huh.
So I'm going to the spare fasteners out there. engineering develop the bill of materials for the spare battery.
That's not really, so.
So, we every Monday, shoot. So every Monday we go through all the things which are either in the works or coming. And this is a schedule Steve Baker, the first guy in the row, he manages, and he says which items are in production, is there a delay, or where they are. So he will have a 2 months lookout for items in production, and he will say, we'll focus on that week and the week after, saying these are the items they're building, this is where it is, this has issues, all that stuff. So kind of a macro level of production planning. And there is a micro level production planning going on with shop floor, so they put every day what they're working on. So from those items, they will pick the items they're working on every day and kind of manage who's assigned to it and all that. All this is fed from PM schedules and the CRR based on when the parts are coming. So what he'll look at is, PM is saying, I need to build this in February, mid-February. Based on the CRR, the parts are going to come first week in February, all of them. They'll come to you and say, do you want to start building? I have capacity, or I cannot build it by second week of February, can you move it? So those communication will happen between the PM. So your schedule and those CRR become an important part in him planning what goes on in the shop. And then what's over here just transpires into the daily production schedule. So that's one meeting. We'll have every 2 weeks PM meeting where we'll go through some training, some issues, overall touching all that. Then we'll have a sales meeting once every week on Wednesday, where all the managers sit and the sales guys sit, and they'll talk through all the future forecasts. So we understand what's coming, how we want to plan for it, is there things we want to start. There is a sales and ops meeting we do Thursday, which is kind of in between all those meetings, where updates from what each team is doing, and then what are the things which are issues, things we need to, nobody else is doing as part of the daily job, we need to attack. I think that's it. So that gives you a quick overview. All right. Hopefully that was helpful, and